Open book, the last voicemail. The phone was supposed to be lighter when I was done with it. That was the point: clear the caches, purge the duplicate photos, offload the podcasts I swore I'd listen to on long walks that became short ones, archive messages from group chats that went quiet after last summer. I wanted the device to breathe easier in my hand, wanted the little bar that measured storage to turn from warning red to something like forgiveness. I started with the obvious: screenshots of recipes I never cooked, receipts I no longer needed, 6 versions of the same sunset because the first one didn't catch the way the clouds looked like peeled oranges. Then came the folders I didn't open. The ones with names like voice memos and voicemail, digital attics you only climb into when you're looking for a reason to feel old. I almost skipped voicemail. The icon had a red bubble with 98 in it, which was either ominous or meaningless. I tapped it anyway. The list unscrolled like a roll call of errands: dentists confirming, delivery drivers lost on the block, a professor who never remembered to email, an ex whose voice I still knew by the shape of the waveform before the sound arrived. Then I saw the date. Saved, June 14th to 7th years ago. Caller ID, Dad. It didn't say Dad anymore, not officially. After he died, I changed the contact name by accident while transferring phones, and then I couldn't bring myself to change it back. So the system called him unknown unless I looked in the old address book, where the number slept under A.M. Winters, the version he used for banks and utilities, a name that felt like a suit he put on to speak to men in offices. But the voicemail knew. The label was a fossil that hadn't learned it was supposed to be dust. I didn't press play. I just stared at the date until it stopped being numbers and turned into an evening. The year I thought coffee counted as dinner. The year I wrote a list of things to do before I turned 25 and then lost the list and outlived the deadline. The year after. I backed out of the voicemail screen like it was a room I'd entered by mistake. I opened photos instead and scrolled until the day matched. A party. A kitchen with too many people in it. My hair shorter. My smile bigger, which didn't mean I'd been happier, just that I'd been better at smiling with all my teeth. A video of Dad at the grill, explaining the physics of a perfect char like he was teaching a class. I didn't open that either. I set the phone face down on the table and walked to the sink. I turned the water on and off again, realizing I'd moved without deciding to, like a sleepwalker who arrives somewhere with wet feet. When I came back, the phone hadn't moved. It looked innocent. A rectangle with a secret in it. I picked it up. My thumb hovered over the triangle that meant go ahead, let it hurt. I locked the screen instead. Later, I told myself. Not now. Not when the light outside was the kind that makes the room look honest. Not when I had things to do. Laundry, emails, the small ritual of making a space livable after I'd lived in it. I put the phone in the drawer where I kept pens and batteries and a screwdriver that never fit anything, closed it, and felt a weird surge of victory, like I'd chosen the brave thing. I was wrong about which thing was brave. The drawer made noise all afternoon. Not literal noise, a phone will mind its manners if you tell it to, but a pressure. The way a house sounds when someone is walking down the hall on the floor below, a thump you feel in your teeth. I washed dishes that weren't dirty. I reorganized the spice rack into a system that would last exactly 3 days. I answered 2 emails that didn't require thought with paragraphs that looked like I'd been auditioning for a job in diplomacy. By evening, the light went soft and yellow, the color of an old photograph deciding to be generous. It was the kind of light Dad liked. He called it golden hour even when there wasn't a camera pointed at anything. It made him stand by windows and say things like, "Look at that," as if the world needed encouragement to keep being itself. I opened the drawer. The phone blinked awake without complaint. Devices have no stake in your bravery. The voicemail screen found me like a dog that knows the path from any room to your feet. Saved, June 14th to 7th years ago. Caller ID, Dad. I tapped it. There was the hiss of the line finding itself, the brief flutter of a connection measuring its courage, and then, "Hey, kiddo. It's me." The chair under me became a thing with edges. He sounded casual. It wasn't the voice you get when someone calls to deliver news. It wasn't the voice I got when he'd been up too late, wrestling the kind of worry that solves nothing. It was the Tuesday voice, the "I'm in the car, what do you want for dinner" voice, the just checking in voice. It hit me like a hand on the shoulder from behind, a startle that turns into recognition and then into something you don't have a word for. "I'm on my way past the store," he went on, "thought I'd pick up that bread you like. Call me back if you want anything else." Oh, and, a sound in the background, a turn signal, the tick-tock heartbeat of lanes. He covered the phone, said something to no one, then returned. "Right. I forgot what I called to say." A small laugh. "Doesn't matter. I'll see you later, okay? Don't work too hard. And, call me back." A pause. The tiniest breath. Then the click. I didn't cry at first. I didn't move. I replayed it before the app could even finish asking if I wanted to. I replayed it again because I thought maybe there was something hidden, a word tucked under the words, a message that knew it had to be enough for 7 years. "Hey, kiddo. It's me." He always started like that, even when caller ID, Dad made it unnecessary. He believed in announcing himself. He thought it was polite to say your name even if the world already knew it. "It's me." A phrase that only works if both people agree on who me is. The fourth time through, my eyes blurred and I swiped the screen wrong, opening the keyboard to a text thread that had stopped receiving new messages when I was 20. The last thing I'd sent him was a photo of a sandwich that had been too tall to eat with dignity. The last thing he'd sent me back was "Proud of you for trying to eat that whole thing. Call me later?" I hadn't. That was the night the power went out. The night the rain made the street look like a river that had gotten lost and decided to try being a road. The night the hospital machines went quiet for a minute no one planned for. I pressed play again. My throat went tight with the knowledge that the voice came from before the word after had carved a line through everything. He didn't know he was talking forward across years. He didn't know the voicemail would become a compass or a wound or both. He was just a man in a car with a turn signal clicking, making a small offering to the day, bread, a call, a reminder to rest. "Don't work too hard," he said, like he always did, because he believed work should be something you could step away from. He didn't live long enough to learn that for some of us, work becomes the thing we do to avoid the rooms that are too quiet. I stopped the message halfway through the next replay because I'd memorized the breath before and, "Call me back." I could hear it now without the phone. I could hear it in the room, which was ridiculous and also true. I put the phone on the table and pushed my chair back and stood, because my body needed a different shape. I walked to the window. The street was the color of tea. A man walked his dog the way people walk dogs when the day has finally let go of them. Somewhere, a child laughed with the total lack of furniture that makes a laugh go around corners and into strangers' kitchens. I put my forehead against the glass. It was cooler than I expected. "I'm here," I said to the room, which was a stupid thing to say, except that the room needed to know someone was willing to be the person on the other end of a sentence. "I'm here." When I turned back, the phone screen had dimmed but not gone dark. The white triangle waited politely. Saved, June 14th to 7th years ago. Caller ID, Dad. Like a lighthouse. Or a hazard sign. "Okay," I said aloud, to the phone, to him, to the part of me that had timed grief like a meeting I could reschedule. "Okay." I hit play again. Grief doesn't arrive on time, and it doesn't knock. It uses your key and lets itself in. The fourth, fifth, and sixth listens open trapdoors. The breath before "Call me back" became a button under my thumb, pressing it released whole rooms. In one, Dad stood in the hardware store, holding 2 identical paint rollers in a way that implied one was secretly better. Always go with the one that feels more like a handshake, he told me, then amended, unless your wall needs a hug. I was 13 and believed there were right answers if you asked the right questions. He made me pick anyway. In another, he stood by the stove and declared onions a philosophy. You think you know them, he said, and then you give them time and they tell you their entire life story. He taught me to keep the heat patient. If you rush sweetness, he said, it sulks. A third room spilled out a Saturday morning, his shoes by the door, laces tucked, an invitation to walk. A list written on a paper bag, stamps, nails, peaches, anything you want just because. He had a talent for just because. He bought flowers for relatives who didn't like flowers because he said they needed practice. He stopped at lemonade stands he didn't want lemonade from because he said economy starts small. He made friends with cashiers and bus drivers and the person at the DMV who had the worst job because he said names live longer if you say them out loud. I sat back down because standing felt like I was refusing the story. I propped the phone against a jar of pens so it could speak from a small stage. I hit play and let the message pour into the apartment's thin walls, into the picture frames, into the spine of the couch, into the heat register that clicked like a typewriter in winter. Hey, kiddo. It's me. I closed my eyes and the kitchen changed. The laminate counter became the scarred wood of the house I grew up in. The humming of my old fridge became the low sigh of the dishwasher that always needed to be kicked. The clock over the doorway returned to its post, its minute hand stuttering and catching up, a rhythm that made the whole house honest about its imperfections. He was alive in the sound, which is a cruel mercy. It doesn't matter how many books you've read about neurobiology or how many times someone told you about the limbic system's tricks, when you hear your dead father say "call me back," your heart will stand up and look toward the door like a dog who recognizes footsteps. I picked up the phone and carried it into the hallway because hallways are good for pacing, and then into the bedroom because bedrooms are good for surrendering, and then into the bathroom because bathrooms are good for crying with your knees against cool tile. I didn't cry. Not properly. I did the other thing, the one where your face moves like it's learning its lines for a part you didn't audition for. On the seventh listen, I heard it, the way he paused before the O, and had a weight to it. The kind of pause you use when you're choosing between saying something and letting the thing say itself later. He filled it with a laugh and I forgot what I called to say, but under that was an edge, a seam that hadn't been pressed flat. I went back 15 seconds and played it again. There it was, the little fall in his voice that meant he was thinking about something bigger than bread. It wasn't foreboding, it was an opening. I'd missed it for 7 years because I hadn't wanted any openings, I wanted endings that closed clean. I pressed my thumb against the screen and slid the progress bar with the caution of someone moving a fragile vase. I played it again. The edge stayed, polite and stubborn. What did you forget? I asked the air, and then laughed because that was the worst question to ask a recording. It had no new answers to give. It could only be the same thing, endlessly. I thought about the last day in the hospital. He'd been smaller there, the kind of small that isn't a failure so much as a truth. Bodies are not designed to hold everything we ask them to. He'd had a joke ready for every nurse, even the ones who didn't know what to do with jokes. He'd taken my hand the way he always had, not possessive, not pleading, just present. He told me a story about a bird that had flown into the garage when he was a kid, and his mother had opened every door and window and then left so the bird wouldn't be scared of being watched while it saved itself. "You're the bird," he said. "I'm the house. I'm trying to get out of your way." We didn't talk about the future because we had both become religious about the present. Not the saintly kind of present where you sit cross-legged and forgive the universe, but the practical kind where you pick up the cup, you drink the water, you say the sentence you can carry. 7 years later, in a kitchen that wasn't his, the present arrived in a 30-second message that asked to be a map. Don't work too hard. Call me back. I forgot what I called to say. I set the phone down and went to my closet and pulled out the box that held the paper version of my father. The mass card. The printed program with a photo of him squinting at son he had invited to visit. The receipt for the plant someone sent that I killed by watering it with good intentions. A birthday card from the year I turned 19, you make it easy to be proud. Dad. His handwriting always leaned forward like it was late. I put the card on the table next to the phone. I pressed play again and placed the card so his dad overlapped the place on the waveform where his laugh was. It was not a ritual I'd learned anywhere. It was what my hands decided was right. By the 9th listen, I knew the message by breath marks. By the 10th, I started to feel sick with the knowledge that I had this gift and also that I had saved it for so long without using it. Saving is not the same as listening. Keeping is not the same as letting something change you. I turned the phone face down. I poured a glass of water and didn't drink it. I looked at the door like someone might be coming. I looked at the ceiling like someone might be above me, stomping to tell me to keep it down. I looked at the chair across from me, empty, and it was just a chair. Okay, I said again, to no one and to the person who was no one and to the part of me that wanted to schedule grief for a quieter month. Okay. I flipped the phone back over and did something I hadn't done in 7 years, I hit share. A little sheet slid up from the bottom with options that looked like exits. Save to files. AirDrop. Copy to. Add to notes. It felt obscene, the clinical neatness of it. I selected Save to Files because files are places you can visit on purpose. I made a folder and named it Dad's Voice and watched the progress bar cross from left to right like a small boat reaching the other shore. Then I opened Messages and typed a name I hadn't typed in weeks, Maya. The cursor blinked like it was trying to keep my heart rate normal. Found something, I wrote. Can I call? The typing dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared, the choreography of modern friendship. Always, she sent back. Calling you now. The phone rang. I answered. And when I said hey, my voice cracked on the H like I was already listening to the next chapter. After Maya hung up, I sat in the quiet. The voicemail still hovered on the screen, its waveform frozen in a mid-laugh jaggedness. I thought I'd feel lighter for sharing it, but instead, it rooted me deeper into the question, why this message? Why had I, 7 years younger and rawer, saved this one? I didn't save every voicemail back then. Most disappeared after a week or two. But I had pressed the little star icon and told it to stay. Why? I opened my laptop and scrolled through folders I hadn't touched since college. Photos 2016. Receipts. Old assignments. I was looking for something I didn't know how to name, a breadcrumb, a note to my future self that explained the decision. In an email archive, I found a chain titled Summer Barbecue. Dad's name sat there, still bold in its confidence. He'd written, "Don't forget to bring chips. Also, proud of you. Don't roll your eyes, I mean it." Another email, 2 weeks later, "Any chance you'll visit this weekend? Not to guilt you, just, house is too quiet sometimes." I hadn't gone. I was working double shifts then, hungry for money and the illusion of independence. The guilt hit fresh, unspoiled by time. I dug deeper. Old journals, spiral notebooks with messy pages. In one, dated 2 days after the voicemail, I had scribbled, "Dad called." Saved it. Not sure why. Feels important. Can't explain. That was it. No revelation. No secret code. Just instinct. The unanswered question clawed at me, "What did you forget to say, Dad?" That night, the dream came. I was in the car with him, his old Honda, the one that smelled like coffee grounds and motor oil, the one with a tape deck that chewed every cassette we fed it. The turn signal clicked. Tick-tock, tick-tock. He was driving, humming tunelessly, tapping the wheel with his wedding ring in rhythm with the blinker. I asked him where we were going. He smiled without looking at me. Home, he said. But we already are, I said. He shook his head. Not yet. Almost. I watched the road. It stretched long and endless, lined with telephone poles marching like sentries. The sky glowed gold, brighter than any sunset I'd seen. Did you forget what you wanted to say? I asked. He glanced at me, eyes warm, alive. No. I said it already. When? You'll hear it. The car dissolved then, dream logic sweeping it away, leaving me standing in the middle of the road with his voice echoing, "You'll hear it, you'll hear it." I woke with tears on my pillow. For the first time in years, I spoke into the dark, "I miss you." My voice cracked on the second word. The next day, I played the voicemail for Maya. We sat at her kitchen table, mugs of tea cooling between us. She pressed her hands around her cup like it was a lantern. I placed the phone on the table and hit play. "Hey, kiddo. It's me." She didn't look at me as it played. She looked at the phone, as if her attention could make the sound clearer, as if she owed my father respect in his 30 borrowed seconds. When the click ended, the silence felt too sharp. I braced for pity, for a soft "I'm sorry." Instead, she said, "He sounds alive." I blinked. What? Not just like, alive in the past. Alive now. Like he's still driving, still buying bread, still laughing at himself. She sipped her tea. Like time didn't win. I stared at her. "It's just a message." "It's not just anything," she said. "You saved it for a reason. Maybe you didn't know why then. But you do now, don't you?" I shook my head. "All he says is, listen again," she interrupted. "Not with your ears. With your memory." I pressed play. The words washed over me again, familiar, painful, ordinary. But when he laughed at forgetting, when he said "doesn't matter," something nudged at me. A shift. A phrase waiting in the seams. I hit pause. My throat tightened. Maya leaned forward. "There's something there, isn't there?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah. I think I missed it." We listened again, this time with the kitchen quieted. Maya turned off the vent fan, silenced her fridge's overachieving ice maker, even pushed the sugar bowl farther from the phone as if ceramic could make noise from wanting to help. "Headphones?" she asked. I nodded. She fetched 2 pairs and a splitter that looked like an apology for modern life. We plugged in, leaning shoulder to shoulder over the phone like kids with a secret radio. "Once," she said. "Then we mark what we hear. Then again." I hit play. "Hey, kiddo. It's me." We both breathed at the same time, a reflex. The turn signal ticked, precise and domestic. In the far background, I heard the faint chirp the car used to give when the seatbelt thought about reminding you and decided you were trustworthy. The wipers hissed, once, then paused. Light rain. Summer. "I'm on my way past the store, thought I'd pick up that bread you like." I felt my mouth tug into an involuntary smile. Sourdough. He'd pretend to misunderstand and bring home the seeded loaf, then insist seeds were the freedom of bread. "Eat your freedoms," he'd say. "Don't waste them on the plate. Call me back if you want anything else." Emerge, by the sound of it, tires over those raised dots that pretend to be braille for cars. He covered the phone, said something that was just air, returned. "Oh, and," we paused the same second. "There," Maya whispered. "That's the seam." It wasn't just the word "and." It was the way his breath hung in front of it, a small white flag. The way he softened his mouth for something heavier and then changed course. I slid the dot back a few seconds and played it again. "Oh, and, what lives there?" Maya said. "I don't know. The words found me anyway." "He used to," if he felt himself getting sentimental, he'd pivot. Joke. Practicality as a life raft. So what sentiment wanted to speak, she asked. I swallowed. The obvious one. The dangerous one. I love you, I said. We were quiet long enough to make the sentence respectable. Play it again, she said. I did. This time, I let my eyes close and tried to listen to the parts that weren't words, the ring finger tap against the steering wheel, there, soft metal against vinyl, the way his throat cleared, twice, the second one smaller, a habit he'd picked up teaching, the barely there hum under it all, which I'd always assumed was the engine, only now, is he humming? Maya asked, tilting her head. I tuned my attention like a safecracker working a dial. There. Under the turn signal. A melody so faint it felt like a suggestion. 4 notes, descending, then 2 up, then back down. I couldn't believe it. That lullaby. The one he made up when I was little. The one about the moon getting stuck in the tree. Her eyes softened. So he was already saying it. Saying what? That he loved you. In the language you both learned first. He had always hummed when words needed help. Sit in the sunlight, he'd hum, while helping me with algebra. Take one more bite, he'd hum, when we both knew the soup needed more salt. I hadn't heard the melody in years. It had gotten buried under adult noises, calendar reminders, HVAC complaints, my own voice narrating my life to no one. Keep going, Maya said gently. I hit play. Right. I forgot what I called to say. He laughed. Not a full laugh, a laugh shaved down to a smile's voice. I forgot what I called to say. He said those words when he remembered the thing that mattered but didn't want to make it heavy. Doesn't matter. I'll see you later, okay? Pause. Tick-tock. Wiper. Breath. And then, don't work too hard. We both heard it then, not the words but the weight. He didn't mean have a balanced relationship with your employer. He meant, don't use work to hide from the parts of your life that can't be scheduled. He meant, rest is part of the job of being human. He meant, come home sometimes, even when home scares you with how much it asks you to belong. He meant, learn the difference between important and urgent before urgency wins you. And, call me back. The phrase I'd been carrying like a brick loosened in my hands. I had treated it like a failure report, proof that I hadn't called him back that night, hadn't caught him in time to make the world behave. Sitting at Maya's table, 2 sets of headphones tethering us to a man who had loved me on purpose, call me back changed shape. It wasn't a task, it was a theology. Call me back to yourself. Call me back to the people who say your name with the right vowels. Call me back from the edge where achievement starts to look like oxygen. Call me back when you wander, which you will. The click at the end felt less like a door and more like the end of a rope he'd thrown over a branch that had always been there. I took the headphones off. The room returned, the tea gone cool, the sugar bowl a small cathedral, the soft ring the spoons had left on the tablecloth. Maya slipped her pair off too and watched me like you watch someone read their horoscope and recognize themselves. I think I heard it, I said. My voice had a raw edge. I think he did say it. She nodded. Sometimes the message is hiding because we're not ready to live with what it asks. She reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Where does that message want to live? In my calendar, I tried, automatic. She smiled. Try again. In my mornings, I said slowly. In what I choose when I wake up before the alarm. In who I text without a reason. In the way I leave the office even when I could stay and be praised for it. And where does it want to be heard? I knew before she finished the question. At the place, I said. Not the cemetery. The other place. The river, she said. I nodded. He had loved it there, not for the views that made postcards, but for the low, inconvenient bend where the water looked like it had changed its mind. He said rivers were reminders that certainty is a luxury topographies rarely afford. "I'll go tomorrow," I said. "Want company?" she asked. I pictured what needed to happen there, the voicemail playing out loud into open air, my voice saying unwieldy words it had avoided, perhaps the kind of silence you can't share, not because it's secret, but because it asks you to carry it alone for a minute so it can change your shape. "I think I should go alone," I said. She squeezed my hand. "Then text me afterward so I don't worry." And, she hesitated. "Bring bread." I laughed, startled by how right that was. "Sourdough? Seeds? Eat your freedoms," she said, and the way her voice borrowed my father's joke and made it ours made something in my chest unclench. That night, I put the phone on the bedside table, not in the drawer. I didn't play the voicemail before sleep. I didn't have to. The melody he'd hummed stowed itself in the place where your body keeps the rhythm of trains once you've ridden one. I dreamed, but not the car this time. I dreamed the river, and a loaf of bread, and a phone in the pocket of a coat that smelled like rain and coffee grounds. I woke before the alarm and watched the light decide to enter the room. I didn't check my email. I made tea. I put the bread in a bag. I whispered, "Call me back," and it didn't hurt. The river greeted me like it had been told to behave. No theatrics, no fog curling its theatrical fingers along the banks, just water doing the unglamorous work of moving. The path down was slick with leaves that had decided to leave their posts early. The air had that clean metal taste it gets before the day invents smells. I chose the same spot Dad always chose, the bend where the water hesitated, then committed, the boulder with a flat top that gathered initials like a collector who knows how to say no, the stand of sycamores that peeled their bark in long, satisfying strips some people couldn't resist touching. He used to put his hand on the largest trunk and say, "See? They're honest. They wear their molting in public." I set the bread on the boulder. I took the phone from my pocket and cupped it in both hands as if it could be cold. The world was loud, insect static, water gossip, a far-off truck insisting on being a character in local sound design. I didn't want to fight it. I wanted his voice to be another instrument. "Okay," I told the air that had to hold 2 times at once. "Okay." I pressed play. "Hey, kiddo. It's me." It didn't echo, exactly. It mingled. Birds adjusted their commentary to make room. The water didn't, it never did. The sound went out, hit bark and leaves and a dragonfly that made static with its wings, and came back altered the way voices always come back altered when you say them outdoors. I'm on my way past the store, I held the bread like a punchline. "Call me back if you want anything else." Oh, and I looked up when the scene came, as if it might write itself in the sky this time. It didn't. It didn't need to. My body heard it. The humming tucked itself under the turn signal. The pause held its door open without demanding I walk through. He laughed. "Doesn't matter. I'll see you later, okay? Don't work too hard. And, call me back." Click. I didn't cry then either. I did something worse, which was tell the truth out loud. "I didn't call you back," I said to the water, to the bread, to the trunks that had outlived a dozen storms. I told myself I'd do it after my shift. Then the power went. Then the night took what it wanted. And I've been carrying that like a spare organ since. I don't know how to put it down without feeling like I'm dropping you. The river didn't argue. It kept doing its one trick. I learned to live like a tight fist, I went on. I thought the world paid better if your knuckles were white. I forgot how to open my hand and let it be a hand. You told me not to work too hard, and I did anyway, because the only thing that made sense was the thing that came with measurable tasks. I didn't mean to make you smaller by making my days full. A breeze moved across the water. The sycamores sounded like paper deciding to become a bird. I'm angry at the part where you left early, I said, and the sentence felt like someone had finally acknowledged the parade route and set up proper barricades. I'm angry at the part where I have to tell people about you instead of putting the phone on speaker and letting you tell them yourself. I'm angry that some mornings I can't remember your exact laugh and other mornings it arrives at full volume and I put it in the wrong room. I wiped my face then, because apparently the body does cry even when the mind insists it is only speaking. But I'm also done using anger as my only proof I loved you. I don't want to make a monument out of not calling you back. I want to make a life out of calling people forward. A blue heron took off from the far bank with that prehistoric confidence they have, like they remember when rivers were rookies. I broke the bread. It felt ceremonial by accident. I tore off a piece and tossed it into the current. It spun, surrendered, found a faster lane. Seeds, I said, because I could hear Maya tease me for choosing them. Eat your freedoms. It sounded silly in the green. It sounded holy, too. I played the voicemail again, not because I needed proof but because I wanted the blessing twice. This time, I said things between the sentences like it was a call and response. Hey, kiddo. It's me. I know. I'm on my way past the store. Get the seeded loaf. Call me back if you want anything else. I want everything else. Oh, and, I know. Doesn't matter. I'll see you later, okay? Okay. Don't work too hard. I won't, not like that. And, call me back. I will. I am. I'm calling everyone back. The click landed like a period that knew a paragraph would follow. I sat on the boulder until my legs went pins and needles and my phone warned me its battery had feelings. I saved the voicemail again, redundantly, to files, to voice memos, to an email I addressed to myself with the subject line compass. I uploaded it to 3 clouds in case one lost its weather. I wrote the words "Don't work too hard" on the back of a receipt and slid it into my wallet where an old gift card had been uselessly waiting to be worth something. Before I left, I placed my palm on the sycamore the way Dad used to and whispered, "I'm going to try. Not just the grief. The living." I felt the tree's cool honesty under my skin. Nothing mystical happened. That felt like love too. On the walk back up the path, a kid barreled past me, chasing a dog who had decided leashes were a suggestion. The kid shouted, "Call me back," without turning around, a game they'd invented, a phrase thrown over a shoulder. It hit me in the ribs like a tickled ghost. I laughed aloud, surprised. At the car, I texted Maya, "I went. I think I heard the rest. Coming by? I have bread. Bring the sermon too," she replied. "You always write one without noticing." I looked at the phone, at the tiny triangle that had changed nothing and everything, and I touched the screen like it was a forehead and I was a parent checking for fever. "See you later," I said to my dad, the way he said it to me, which was always a promise and never a plan. The day had decided to be ordinary and therefore generous. I put the car in gear. The turn signal clicked. I hummed 4 notes down, 2 up, back down, and drove toward the part where the story starts acting like a life again. The days after the river felt different, not because the voicemail had changed, but because I had. I walked lighter. I noticed things I'd ignored for years, the way sunlight crawled across my desk, the way my neighbor hummed while watering her plants, the way bread tasted better when I didn't eat it hunched over my laptop. One morning, I scrolled through my contacts. Names I hadn't dialed in years stared back at me. An old college friend. My cousin in Oregon. Even my grandmother, whose number I kept but rarely called because small talk made me feel guilty for not being better at it. "Call me back," Dad's voice whispered. So I did. I called my grandmother first. She cried just hearing my hello. I called my cousin, who picked up from a rainy bus stop and laughed that I remembered his birthday was coming. I called my old friend and apologized for the silence. We talked for 2 hours. Work still demanded, but I stopped letting it devour. I left on time twice that week, shocking my manager. I said no to one extra project and yes to a walk in the park with Maya. The voicemail kept playing in my head, but not like a wound anymore. More like a metronome, steadying me when the rhythm threatened to run too fast. I even returned to the hospital, first time since the funeral. I stood outside, not ready to walk in, but ready enough to say aloud, "I'm still here. And I'm listening." The world didn't applaud. No lightning bolt, no revelation. Just peace. Quiet peace that filled the empty spaces like water rising slow. 2 weeks later, I played the voicemail again. Not because I was drowning. Not because I needed proof. But because I wanted to hear my father's voice the way some people want to hear music, not to fix anything, but to remind themselves what beauty feels like. "Hey, kiddo. It's me." I smiled this time. My chest didn't ache. My hands didn't shake. It was just him, alive for 30 seconds, and me alive to receive it. I transferred the file to every safe place I could think of, a flash drive, a cloud, even printed the transcript on paper, though words without the voice felt like a map without color. The folder on my phone is still called Dad's Voice. But the message doesn't just live in files anymore. It lives in how I speak to people I love without saving my tenderness for later. It lives in the way I rest when I'm tired, rather than proving how long I can stay awake. It lives in the calls I make, not because I have news, but because I want someone to know, it's me. I'm here. I love you. I don't press play every day. I don't have to. The words are stitched into me now. The dead don't always leave silence. Sometimes, if we're lucky, they leave us a voice. And that voice becomes a forever message.